We finally made it to the garage in the Black Goldfield lands as we tried to carefully tow some of the wreckage from our last encounter to get it fixed up and used for our own good along our journey. The garage was always guarded as normal as tanks around the perimeter kept watch to make sure no fighting took place on their grounds. The network of garages would know who violated their rules, and anyone that had, their resources would be permanently cut, or they would be destroyed by the garages themselves for going against their rules. As we entered the garage, other clans were seen. It wasn't always the friendliest place, as the same hate felt outside toward different groups was also felt within the doors of this place. We parked our tanks and paid the garage a large sum of credits we inherited from the last battle to upgrade what we had and repair some of the ones we brought with us to use for our own good moving forward. As our tanks were being worked on, things seemed to change with the garages since we had last been in one. Gold had now become a popular currency used to buy rare tanks the garage would fix up and sell, along with a way to gamble for one to see if you could get one. But most of the time, this would leave clans losing much or in a bad position for when the time came to buy something they actually needed. We decided to focus on just getting what we had come for, as the sun sets to finish the day. The time had finally come that our new tanks were finished and the upgrades were complete. We climbed back in to hear the beautiful new sounds of their engines start and departed from the garage to go back out among the battlelands. Some of our light tanks separated from us to get eyes on the surrounding territories and to try to get eyes again on the plague's whereabouts. Our main division continued to head out along the front lines of the plague's advance to see if we could continue to find clans or tanks willing to join us through the continued help. It was a couple days when we started to see the sight of green grass again. It had been a while during our travels through the desert lands. We carried on as we began to see a field of scattered wreckage before us. We cautiously approached the scene as strangely some tanks looked like they had been there longer than others. Our eyes kept a close watch as we slowly moved through the ruins around us. While not seeing any sign of life or anything much of value, we might still be able to use for our own. We came to a stop, not knowing what to think of our surroundings. It appeared odd that some tanks still seemed to have fire rising out of them, while others looked as if time had started crumbling them away. We walked around as we started to see an injured man covered in dirt and ash come around the corner of a destroyed tank and collapse before us. I run over to see if we can help the struggling tanker, but before I could say anything, when I knelt down next to him, I started to hear him say a few faint words that I tried to make out through his tired, rundown voice. "You need to get out of here. It's not safe. Run." I look up, just as a clanmate calls out from behind me if I found anything. I look back to respond, just as the ripping sound of a shell starts to be heard coming closer in the distance and clashes into one of our tanks, causing it to explode from the powerful impact. I yell for us to get our tanks into cover as we try to run back and start our engines and hide from the exposed positions as the crew from the destroyed tank climbs into another. I help the tanker rest against one of the dead tanks as we also rush back to start our engines, just as the sound of another shell is heard in the distance racing towards us. A few members from the tank, luckily able, fall out just as another one of the tanks explodes. We immediately angle and hide our tank against the closest object we can use for cover. We look out through our binoculars to try and see where the shots were taken from, but the sight of many trees and bushes in the distance, it's hard to tell. We radio to our light tank to see if they can help give us eyes on the situation. They look over to see a covered path that may give them a good position. The KV-2 begins to try and side scrape against the area of where the shots might be coming from, just as the whizzing sound of another shell cuts right through our group and ricochets off the thick metal heavy armor. The crew of the KV yells for the light tank to advance as they try to distract through the loud blast of their cannon firing in the general direction from where the mysterious shots were coming from. The light tank throttles it to advance as they race across the field to hopefully spot the hidden target as we all begin to fire in the same general direction to help our clanmate. The crew of the light tank gives it all they can as they begin to see the next rock for cover they can get behind, just as another powerful shell barely misses their turret and explodes against the rocks behind them. The adrenaline raced through the crew of the light tank as they waited for a moment for the ghost to hopefully take its sights off of them. Did anyone happen to see where that came from? The light tank radios back, but there still isn't any luck. Silence falls between us just as the French crew gets an idea to gas it into one of the destroyed tanks they use for cover in front of them and begin to push it towards the general direction to help create another distraction. Another shell fires to luckily only smash against the ruins as our light tank advances to spot the enemy behind some bushes in the distance. They yell back to report to the group of where the ghost was firing from, just as they themselves begin to fire against the beast hiding ahead. The roar of a loud engine is heard pushing forward as we begin to see what looks like 130mm mounted cannons start to come through the bushes in the distance to aim and take another shot to hopefully take another one of us out. We try to move out from behind our cover to take aim on the sniper ahead. Another blast explodes from the roaring cannon just as another shell hits and goes straight through one of our tanks, luckily missing anything crucial. We fire upon the sniper, trying to reverse once more into cover as some of our shells unfortunately bounce off the beast while a few of ours are able to penetrate. We begin to advance to hopefully keep eyes on the sniper among us, but it starts to disappear out of view behind more cover. We radio to our clan to spread out to try and encircle and trap the enemy to hopefully pin it. Our light tries to move along the last area the destroyer was last seen as it races across the flank from another side. We try to park our tanks around the last spotted location in a safe manner behind cover so there's no way the destroyer can escape or take shots on us. Silence begins to creep in among us as we intensely look on to hopefully get a glance of any movement in the covered area before us. We radio to our light as it continues to approach and also close in on the beast's last location. I don't see it, we hear in response. They continue to slowly move forward as the sight of something moving in the bushes catches their attention, only to realize it's the ghost taking aim on them. Shots from the light fire upon the ghost while trying to accelerate away from taking a hit against the massive cannon trying to aim in. They radio to report the sniper's position just as another loud blast fires, just barely missing the light tank. We hear the struggling beast trying to roll back into cover while we advance in to spot the monster once more and all aim to quickly fire upon it. The traversing sound of the ghost's gurgling dying engine begins to spin the destructious cannon around once more as we all begin to reload another shell to finish it off. Before it realizes it doesn't stand a chance any longer, it fires once more while ripping off some of the siding of our KV-2, while we all begin to fire again, bringing the ghost finally to silence. We look upon the burning destroyer before us while I rub my hands over my face after the stress and shock experienced. We drive back to the struggling tanker I had found as a few others began to make their appearance. "You got him," one of them says in relief as we approach the unknown tanker. "Who are you?" we ask as they tell us they too were other tankers crossing this land when some of them got ambushed by the destroyer, and that a couple others from their clan ran away once they realized they didn't have a chance. We ask if they'd like to join us as we offer our hands to help them up. As they agree, we begin to help fix up what we can from their destroyed tank. With the sight of our new clan members, another new tank joining us, and upgrades to be fixed once more, we start to gain our confidence against the plague. But only time will tell if it will ever truly be enough.